design build, you're taking
I was at the first,
Were you?
the CSU games were the first ones. With the most stadium.
They're so overloaded, I guess the buses, they had to call in Greeley buses to help them out.
Good problem to have.
Yeah, not bad problem. Borrow a cheat sheet.
Oh, sorry. I'm stealing your stuff.
Dedicated lane is 100% window. Interesting. We'll share. Can I steal one of your pants, you legends, with those cheat sheets?
You saw me email?
You figured it out? Oh, good, we're good. Here. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the regular Board of Trustees meeting for January 23rd, 2024. Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Karsbeck.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Grace.
Here.
Trustee Hardy.
Yes.
Trustee Albrecht.
Here.
Trustee Murphy.
Here.
Trustee Ayers.
Here.
Trustee Kurtz.
Excellent, we have a full board. Next on our agenda is citizen participation. This is a chance for anyone in the audience tonight that wishes to speak to anything that is not on tonight's agenda. We will have, I'll open every one of these up to public participation as well. We have no one signed up. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak that did not have a chance to sign up? Okay. We can now move on to consent agenda. Any trustees like anything removed from consent?
Yeah, I wanna know more about item D,
Yeah.
Next Grand Entrance License Agreement.
Same.
Okay, we'll remove item D. Any other
D.
items? D?
Yep.
Yeah, D, yeah.
Done.
Any other items to remove? Is there a motion to approve consent agenda minus item D?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Okay, trustee Kurtz has moved on it. Mayor Pro Tem Grace has seconded. Clerk, may we have a roll call vote?
Trustee Hardy.
Yes.
Trustee Ayers.
Yes.
Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee Albrecht.
Yes.
Trustee Kurtz.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grace.
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes. Items removed from consent will be considered next. So Heron Lakes Gated Entrance License Agreement. Trustee Hardy, you had questions?
Yeah, I just wanna know more about it. There was blank dates, there was blank pages, not really designated where it is.
Administrator Kirk, you mind elaborating?
Just
We-
wanted more
We
detail.
were expecting to have legal description exhibits from Heron Lakes prior to tonight, which we did not receive, so we're actually gonna recommend that you not take action on it tonight anyway.
Okay.
And, that you postpone it to a future meeting. The long and short of it is that their original master plans identified gates at some of their entrances. They understand those have to be kind of open to the public, but that they and so we've been working with them to develop an agreement that sets the terms for how that works. I mean, how do you have a gated subdivision that's open to the public?
We were
and
on
so I-
NPR today too. That golf course was, and they called it gated.
And so, you know, it was kind of tacitly approved as part of their master plan approvals of the town board. But the specifics about how that actually gets done, I think we've worked out in this agreement. But again, it's missing some exhibits, and so they're gonna be legal descriptions. It's the gates that are already built and installed that are not closed because they can't be. And I think the expectation is once this agreement is finalized, that then they can operate those gates when they're prepared to.
Okay. Or closed, like the rookery closed, but when you get close enough, it'll open up.
Like the rookery is gated, but it opens as soon as you pull up to it.
Okay.
That gate, well, that's a different story, but anyway.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding this?
Mostly just location specifics of, you know,
There's the
Kinda what
gate,
you
there's the
brought
gatehouse on Grand Market, and then there's the gatehouse, that gatehouse is right there as you pass, like come and go, heading down Grand Market Avenue, and then the other gate is up by County Road 14 in Heron Lakes Parkway.
Okay. If there's no more questions, we won't take action on this tonight. So we can just move right on to our regular agenda tonight, and we'll start off with the Berthoud Adaptive Park Project. Administrator Kirk.
Thank you, Mayor Karspeck, and trustees. This is a project that I think that all of you are aware of. This is something that's been underway for quite some time. Ms. Lauren Bowling, who's here tonight, who will give you a presentation as well, has been working to fundraise for a fully adaptive, inclusive park in the Farmstead subdivision. This is part of the Farmstead development, but significantly above and beyond what the development would have been typically required to provide. And it's a playground as part of a park that'll be open continuously to the public in the future. It's a great project, and I'll just let her kind of take it away from there, and then we can certainly share our thoughts from a staff perspective about any support that the town may be able to provide in helping this playground come to fruition.
Excellent. Welcome, Madam Bowling.
Hello, everybody on the board. Welcome. Thank you for having me, Mayor. Thank you, Chris, very much for that intro. Thank you for having me back, and I would like to give you a little bit more information on the Farmstead Berthoud Adaptive Park Project. I would like to take you back to August of 2023 when I was last here, and give you a quick overview of the project and where we stand today. So the Berthoud Adaptive Park Project was started in July of 2021 with a lemonade stand in our driveway, trying to raise enough money for a swing to go into the pocket park next to our house, and we raised $11,000 at that lemonade stand, which showed us that this was something much more important to our community, something that was needed, and so we worked with the developer of Farmstead to look at the park that was going into the second phase of Farmstead, which was a much larger space. It was something that we could look at making a fully accessible and inclusive space, and we started working with Star Playgrounds and the developer and started raising funds to do that. At that point in 2021, we came up with our design, worked with parents, children, therapists, all around to make sure that we were making a really inclusive design, something that was fully accessible, fully inclusive for not only children with disabilities, physical disabilities, but all abilities and disabilities. And at that point, our budget was $1 million. Because it has now been 3 years, because of construction delays and inflation, our new budget is around 1.4 million. I'll run you through that. I'm sure that you have seen other projects that have been delayed, and I think that should run with what you have seen as far as budgets go. Just to show you some community support, again, we started with a lemonade stand in our driveway. We've seen the community show up in droves for this project. Our first lemonade stand, we raised $11,000. The one this last year, we raised $19,000. So really, the community has shown us year after year after year that they are behind this project and that they want to see this happen. If I go into the actual playground, last time that we talked, you guys had some questions, so I just wanted to show you some pictures. We can come back to this if you guys have any questions, but there's reasons behind every single one of these pieces of equipment. Everything has been thought through, and everything has a reason for inclusive play. Every single piece of equipment is built for children with all needs and for children who are either have a disability or do not, and so that everybody can play together in the space. And I wanted to come back to, this is my son Miles, you'll see him right back here. Miles, can you wave and say hi? Of course, this came about because this directly affects my family, but it affects more than just our family. To get to this particular swing, we had to drive about an hour and 20 minutes. The closest playground with any of these features is 45 minutes away. And there's nothing closer. And there's one in Fort Collins, there's one in Greeley, and there's one in Westminster. Then from there, you have to go to Aurora. So that's really something that will make this playground a destination for anybody in any which direction. And it will really bring people to our town. It will help everybody and it will help drive revenue for all of our businesses and our town. Again, people have really rallied behind this from far and wide. This is a little girl who heard about our project all the way down in Inglewood, and she raised over $2,000 for our project, having her own lemonade stand and asking for donations for her birthday. Will Edwards, who was the first developer of the project, gave us $100,000 personally. We had this Jeep donated and we had it auctioned off at Barrett Jackson. Really, the community support has been incredible. Right here in our own backyard also. All of these businesses here in Berthoud, as well as just neighboring businesses in neighboring towns, people have shown up again and again and again to tell us that this is something that is needed here in our community. All of these people here behind me have been with me since day one. I've had incredible support. I never could have done this without them. And they've shown me day in and day out that they believe in this project and that they want it to happen also. Getting down to the numbers, I know that you can't read this. This is our budget. This is all of the equipment that will go into the playground, but what I really want you to see down there at the bottom is the $95,000 in-kind donations coming from Star Playgrounds. So not only are we raising cash funds towards this playground, but we also have raised really close to probably $500,000 in-kind donations also. Right here, the new developer, Steve Schroyer, who you'll talk to a little bit later tonight on the agenda, who is here also. They have come together, and I wanted to really call out that in-kind donations, they're doing $200,000, and they've also made a pledge for $200,000 in cash. So I wanted to call that out. So when you put that all together, we need about 1.457. We've raised $619 in cash to date. That's $837 that we need, minus the $2,000 that Schreier is giving, and so that leaves us with $637 that we need to be able to build this playground. And I will stop there and answer any questions that you may have.
Excellent, thank you for the presentation. Trustees, questions? Before we move on to comments, Administrator Kirk, do you have anything to kind of guide this?
Yeah, only that, you know, from a staff perspective, this is gonna be a large community park, and this will be obviously a destination playground for kids of all abilities, and if the town board was so inclined, I think we can support this project financially. We would do that out of our park development fund. That fund has just under $2 million in it today, but we do have about $1.2 million in expenses already planned and budgeted. And so that fund has roughly $800,000 remaining. I don't think we want to zero that out. We've talked internally about, you know, prior to knowing what these numbers were, maybe we could support $400,000 out of that fund, knowing that this is going to be a public playground in a large community park. But I think, you know, that we need some direction from the board about your willingness to support the project financially, if that's something that you want to make a priority. Taking money from that fund just means that we won't spend it on something else, but we don't have anything else currently budgeted for those funds. As you know, we have a lot of big park projects. We have one that we'll show you tonight, but that can potentially be funded through a different, excuse me, a different fund source. So I think we have some options if the board is inclined to do that.
Why not Parks Improvement? Is it, you're looking at it? 'cause
That
it-
is the one. Yeah,
Oh,
sorry,
Parks
did I not
I
say?
think you said development. Are they the same thing?
Yeah, park development, park improvement is the same thing.
Okay, I thought they were, okay, cool. Great. Well, if there's nothing else, I'd like to open up to public comment real quick, just in case there's anyone in the audience that came out and wishes to speak. If not, Al, welcome. If you could state your name and address.
Yes,
I won't be a stickler, but if you could keep it to 3 minutes or less, but
Okay, I
yeah,
will.
thanks.
I'm Corey now. I live at 213 Dorothy Drive. I actually live next door to Lauren. I am one of the lucky ones that gets to live next door to her. But also, I'm lucky because I got to watch this idea go from a single lemonade stand to raise money for a single swing to grow into this beautiful park that we could have never dreamed that first day that we were brainstorming at her kitchen table of ideas of how we could make this park or the swing. We've all obviously witnessed her drive and her passion for this project, but what I really want to highlight and recognize is the community and how they've shown up from my point of view, seeing this firsthand. So I've been at all the lemonade stands and the fundraisers, and really the way that people of Berthoud and the surrounding communities have shown up is just something that I'll never forget. They brought their hard-earned money towards this project, and every lemonade stand, the street was just lined with cars and motorcycles and fire trucks, and just everybody came out to support us, and it was just amazing. And it really was really just a privilege to talk to families of all abilities about how much this park will change their lives, and even folks who wouldn't even use this park themselves, or their kids are grown, and we're also behind the project completely. And the idea of a grassroots effort of a dedicated mom who just wanted to build a playground for everyone. So this park has largely not been funded by big corporations, as you've seen. It's money from our peers, our neighbors, our small businesses here, and it means that this park is more than a park to our community. It's a one-of-a-kind place that shows the heart of the people that live here, and it makes a statement that if you care about the community that you live in and you want to make a change for the better, that it is achievable, and that there are wonderful people who live here around us that will support you. I think that this is an opportunity for the town to show that it supports people like Lauren who have dreams to make Berthoud the best it can be. And so what I'm asking all of you today is more than what Lauren has asked. I think the town can make a big statement to the people who have supported her already and shown them that grassroots efforts matter and their hard-earned dollars mattered, and finish this park. Give Lauren the rest of the money that she needs to make it a reality in the way that it was meant to be. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Is there anyone else? Sorry, welcome.
Steve Schroyer, representing the developer, 900 Greenfields Court, Fort Collins, Colorado. You know, we took this project over. I think one of the first people that I met was Chris over at one of the events where the Edwards are actually donating some money to these guys. And what a fantastic project to be a part of. And we would like to see it get finished off. I would like to just add, we all know how good this is going to be for the community. I want everybody to up here just think about the next 1,000 homes in this area that are going to be coming and contributing to that park fund. If you guys do take some money out of it tonight, over the next year and a half, 2 years, there's gonna be additional funds for every building permit being pulled. That's gonna replenish your park fund that you can use in other places. So I just wanted to bring that up in case it wasn't mentioned. So other than that, we just would like to see your support, and we're excited to see it go. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to speak? Clerk, do you have anyone online by chance?
No, Mayor Karsbeck.
Okay, thank you. All right, bringing it back, thank you, everyone. Bringing it back to the board here. Administrator Kirk, you're just looking for some direction. Do you want fund numbers tonight, like amounts? Or?
If we were to provide funding, we'd like to know kind of what you're comfortable with. And then we'll come back at mid-year and make a formal adjustment to the budget. But if the board wanted to support the project financially, we'd like to know kind of the dollar amount that you'd like to support. And then either you could vote on it tonight or at our next meeting. I think that's your preference. You could do it tonight.
Okay. Any thoughts right now? We were initially shooting for what, 400?
That's kind of what we've been kind of thinking about internally. We've been waiting for the numbers to be finalized and to have the opportunity to meet with the developer and kind of talk about what their contribution is to the project and all those things. And so we did have an opportunity to meet. I don't know, was that 2 weeks ago now?
2 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago? Gosh, that feels like it was 3 days ago. And so we had a chance to kind of work through all those details. We had been kind of expecting somewhere in the $400,000 range, and so that's kind of what we've been targeting internally, if that was something the board wanted to support. You know, again, I think that fund, there are multiple funds we could pull from, but the park development fund seems to be the most appropriate for this activity or this project. You know, again, we've got roughly $800,000 of uncommitted funds in that fund today.
Roughly 800. Uncommitted.
Mhm.
Any thoughts, Mayor Pro Tem?
No, I mean, the presentation itself is very indicative that this is a very much sought after community outreach, both locally and kind of northern area. The amount of different buy-in points, the amount of kind of grassroots efforts. I mean, the numbers right here, you can't argue with the fact that this is both impactful to the community as well as to, you know, your immediate family at hand. I mean, this is incredibly well put together. It's a very well thought out project. You've gone through every possible step to make this dream a reality, and I'm fully supportive of getting this thing fully funded tonight. I don't think there's a reason we shouldn't, to be honest.
Mhm.
I mean, let's just get it done.
Any other thoughts?
Well, one, yeah, just to echo Mayor Pro Tem Grace's comments, very impressive, the whole thing, the
Yeah.
story, very well done. I guess I have a technical question maybe, and this is just really related to the park itself.
Yep.
You mentioned it was a community park, so this is a park that will be a Berthoud Park when it's all
We
said?
will not own and maintain this park in the future. It'll be owned and maintained by the HOA, but there is an understanding and legal obligation for this playground to be open to the public in perpetuity.
Gotcha. But yeah, I'd be supportive of full funding.
Trustee Albrecht, any thoughts?
I feel like we owe it to the community to see this realized. They've invested so much already and it's something we need, and I can't see a more pressing park project that we have to dedicate those funds to. And I think I'd love to see us close the gap with like a not to exceed amount of maybe $650,000 in case we need some wiggle room to make it happen, but capping it somewhere so that we don't go far beyond that. But I think I'd like to see us make sure that we close that gap.
Trustee Murphy?
I would second those comments as well. Before I got on board, I reached out to Mrs. Bowling on this effort. First I heard of it, and this is why I'm here. I think this is why a lot of us are here. This kind of effort that you put in is really impressive. And I'm moved by it. And I see no reason we should not fully fund this. I agree, a cap of 650,000 is really what we should be looking at. But I'd like to commend you and your whole family on this whole effort. It's really phenomenal. And excuse me, really makes me thankful to live here.
Thank you. Trustee Ayers?
I can't say anything more than the other trustees have. I think because of the fact that it's community driven, if we have the money, then I don't think it's really, I mean, I think it's kind of on us to further the needs and the wants of the community, especially if there's this much support for it, so, sure.
Trustee Hardy?
Just keep that field goal, get it done.
I can't add anything into this, but a beautiful family, beautiful neighborhood, all of you guys have came together. I wrote down that comment, fully fund this shows the heart of the community and the people who live here. And it goes along with what everyone said, it really defines us, your effort. And I know you came from Mead, and Mead's lost. But incredible.
This is our home.
I'm fully in support of 650 as well.
Thank you all so much.
Sure, you probably need to, do you wanna
Need a motion?
move on it tonight?
I would ask that you make a motion just so we can have that record, and then we'll, like I said, we'll make a formal adjustment to the budget at mid-year, but we can go ahead and get working on getting this done.
Just have to sell a lot more Twinkies that it loves.
We'd like to move on to if 650 work for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
I move to approve the Berthoud Adaptive Park project funding up to $650,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem Grace has moved on this. Trustee Hardy has seconded. Any amendments? Clerk, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Albrecht,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grace,
Yes.
Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Ayers,
Yes.
Trustee Kurtz,
Yes.
Trustee Hardy,
Yes.
Mayor Karsmack.
Yes. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you all so much, thank you.
Is he in the room or did he take off? Is he in the
Miles
room?
is in the restroom.
Oh. Well, you have a good surprise, so.
As soon as he comes back, we will tell him.
Awesome, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for everything you've done.
Thank you.
Good luck following that one up.
Right.
All right.
Sorry.
Do you wanna push that to the next meeting?
No, it's, as an aside, being a trustee, we get a lot of, different projects, different things that come in front of us. And sometimes it's just a lot of, menial bureaucratic work. Sometimes it's, kind of long-winded. It gets kind of in the weeds at times, and that's just kind of our function. This, to kind of Trustee Murphy's point, this is exactly why I'm still proud to be on this board. This is probably one of the coolest things I've gotten to work on, for the record. And I just got to sit here and look at this, but I'm so proud of this, and this is so cool. And I just wanna say thank you, bringing this to us. This is so amazing.
You did it.
Yeah.
You're so welcome. That's from the whole community, for you and your family. So thank you for everything you've done.
Absolutely.
Good job.
See, I can't wait to play on there with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone who came out. All right, number three on the agenda tonight is the Arboretum design presentation by our Deputy Town Administrator, Jeremy Olinger.
Top that, Jeremy.
It's a good night at parks, isn't it?
Yeah.
Marijuana.
Park nights are good nights, Marks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, trustees. This item is the Berthoud Arboretum design concept. We kicked this project off last April in 2023 with Wink Consultant Group. You might be familiar with that consultant group. They're the ones that were lead and did a rec center. Everything outside the building and the property. They're lead consultants on that, and they helped us design and work through that a couple of years ago and brought that to fruition. So this is the southern, kind of the western southern half of the Wagner Farm Park, as we call it today. So last year we worked with staff and Wink, met with Port and the Tree Advisory Committee in several meetings, sometimes a couple joint committee meetings, working through this. And then lately, getting the school district involved a little bit and getting their feedback and input, and also the Colorado Open Lands, as you know, we own a partnership with them on the property. So Tyler here, Mr. Kiggins, Tyler Kiggins here from Wink to walk you through that presentation, design concept tonight. So I'll let him.
Welcome.
Get to work.
Great, thanks Jeremy. Thanks for having me, everybody. Tyler Kiggins from Wink Associates, as you mentioned, landscape architects are out of Denver. Really happy, we've done a couple projects up here in Berthoud that I really enjoy working with the town and excited to continue the work at Wagner Farm Park for sure. I'm gonna start a little bit, so just a little bit of history of the project and some of the meetings that Jeremy mentioned. We did kick it off and we worked with the town staff, came up with like a preliminary concept plan, and that's what we took to the joint committee meeting that was both the Port and the Tree Advisory Committee. And at that meeting, there was a lot of encouragement, excitement about the project. We did hear, this is some of the feedback that we heard that day though. They kind of liked the overall layout and the concept behind everything. They wanted us to kind of keep working on the grading to minimize the amount of fill we have on the site, so we're not trucking in a lot of soil. You'll still see we have some fill and there's some options within that though. They really liked continuing the agricultural theme that was established on the north side of the park. And then just to continue the use and encourage community to like learn about the benefits of low water and pollinator plants and habitat. There's also a potential memorial here for Wagner, is it John Wagner?
Yes.
Yeah. On the site, the original like farmer homesteader on the site itself. So there is a memorial opportunity here, and the preference is kind of on the north side of the site. Lots of trails. There's a lot of desire for trails throughout the site and wide trails. So we've incorporated 8-foot wide primary trails to get you in and around, with always like a 3-foot wide soft surface like Crusher Finds Trail adjacent to it for running or other uses. And then irrigation, obviously gonna be really integral to the success of this park. We do have the water rights from the canal, the ditch there. So we are looking at exploring some opportunities to unearth that water, bring it up to the surface, create a feature out of it, and then use that water to also irrigate the arboretum with.
Just for the audience, north is on the left, right? Or
Yeah,
left.
sorry. Yeah, let me, so in this plan, north is left. The rec center is just outside the view on the plan there. On the right-hand side is Mountain Avenue, running east-west. Yep. So then we revised the plan. This is a slightly revised plan. You can see there's a little bit more detail in it. Started looking at some potential features. Took it back to the port meeting in September. They were still pretty much acceptable. The layout, everything we were showing to date. There were some questions about interest in the community garden, so we're still showing that. It sounds like there is some interest in that. One of the big things was we had what we're calling the left-hand side or the northern portion of this arboretum. We're calling it a community hub, and that's just the area where it's gonna be a little bit more programmed, less just soft surface trails, potentially some community gardens, some other agricultural themed activities. We have a lawn area in there, and at this time we decided that maybe that could become an actual really great space for you outdoors. Maybe that becomes an event space. You could have weddings there and it's inside like a flower garden or something else, and there's a picnic shelter there. So we were encouraged to explore that a little bit further. And then also just maintaining some sort of a buffer between the pickleball courts that are just now getting finished and the rest of the garden. This is where we've landed right now, and I'll walk you through the plan. Once again, on the left-hand side is north. That area is kind of shaded out with the one over it we're calling the community hub. And there'll be another slide where I'll go into some more details on that. But what you're looking at here is, we can start from the south side. A lot of this is kept open on the south side, not as many trees. There are some view corridors that are part of the conservation easement that we're trying to maintain looking west. But you can come into the site and we have this larger, you'll see in white, this kind of larger trail that snakes through the site. And what it does is if you start right here, you start going this way, you start climbing the hill. And as you climb, and then you get up to the top of the hill up here. And so this is kind of a viewpoint looking out west up on top of a hill. It's about 12, 15 feet tall at that point right there. And then you kind of open up the trees and you can get a view out west. And then you go back down, and then you can, if you keep on this side, you climb up another hill and you get another view. And each time you're going up and down the hills, you're going through kind of slightly different landscape zones, different trees. For example, we're calling this like a big pine grove up here on the top of this hill. This one's a little bit more open, maybe a bunch of gamble oak or something on the side, scrub oak on the side of that hill. And then you can go back down and then get into this community hub area. If you take the further western path, or the path that we're calling down the lower side of these hills, you go down here, and this is where it's a little bit more of a riverine type experience. We're taking, there is an existing irrigation line that does run through here, goes down and then goes this way and it goes towards the school site, Turner Middle School. We're gonna take some of that water we're proposing, and unearthing that and basically make that an irrigation canal starting around this location, travels downstream, and then it ends up in this irrigation pond. And that pond then you could irrigate the site with, you could draw down. You could also have fishing other opportunities with it as well. You'll see the number 11 on the edge of that pond. We're proposing some sort of a deck feature or boardwalk or something along that one edge. In here, there could be opportunities as the path crosses the canal, little bridges and some play structures next to the canal. And then each of these areas, we have different, like this one, we're saying maybe it's a maple demonstration grove, different types of maples, so one time a year, all those just turn like bright red and yellow. 21, I think over here was more like a fragrance walk. You start to find a bunch of trees that certain time of the year, they're super fragrant. When you go through that area, you really get that memory and it instills that memory of the landscape for you. Moving north to the community hub area, this is the existing gravel parking lot that's out there at Wagner Farm Park now. The pickleball courts that are just getting built right here. We're proposing that you'd walk in heading south, and this would be a big pine alley, so like a row of pine trees that you can walk through heading south with views towards the south. Some sort of maybe an orchard screening the parking lot from the rest of the garden. This is that zone I was talking about. We have the potential to maybe create an event space out in the park as well. 8 could be a picnic shelter and then a large lawn where you could have a tent set up, you could have weddings there, you could hold a wine festival. And then the rest of the purple in there is maybe more of a perennial garden space that you could meander in. And we think that'd be a good opportunity for the memorial as well. In this location, we're showing a little bit more typical raised beds community garden. They could be different types. We're not really getting into that level of detail at this point, but just think of your typical community gardens that might have a fence around it with a picnic shelter in there and opportunities for the community to come use that. These other 6s out here though, we're showing us opportunities that are more a potential pumpkin patch, areas to grow sunflowers, fall activities, so you could almost do like a one-off every year and kind of change out the different the vegetables or what you're growing. This is a remnant of a crop circle or central pivot irrigation, and we see that as an opportunity to both kind of just teach and demonstrate about historical irrigation practices in the area. But also you could, say you planted it in clover or something, you could then mow it down and then you could still host a big event out there. You could still have the whole community out to this big open lawn that most of the time you don't really have to deal with, but you could just then mow it. We're showing also like a piece of the irrigation equipment that maybe it's a relic out there, or you could turn it into a spin set or something else, so a reason to kind of go out into the middle of this field and hang out. And then the last piece that I'll show on here is number 12, and we've worked with Paul, the town forester, on a potential, basically a tree nursery, almost like a working yard where the forestry department can add trees, store trees for a while, see how things are growing, kind of be this evolving landscape where he can pull trees out of and plant somewhere else in the community or within the arboretum itself, as a demonstration area in a way that maybe you can test some of the tree varieties and store stuff on site, maybe grab some really small saplings and grow them up a little bit before you actually put them out in the landscape. Here's some images of kind of what we think some of this could look like. Soft surface paths, opportunities for art, nature art out there that's kind of really low impact, places to explore for the kids. Landform, you can get a lot of good art forms and shapes out of landform and experiences going up and over them. We have identified some public art opportunities. Maybe there's some top of these hills or some of these open meadows where you can get some public art incorporated. These are some images of some potential canal options, the central pivot irrigation, pumpkin patch. Here's a diagram showing just the trails themselves. The blue lines are those 8-foot primary trails I was speaking about earlier, where they'd be the 8-foot kind of concrete wide trail. All the pink or secondary trails are still concrete, but 6 to 10 feet wide. They kind of just vary depending upon where you're at. And I say 10 because this one already kind of exists down here that is the wider trail. And then all the brown colored trails are all just the softer tertiary trails, crusher fines, and that includes also an access back to that forestry kind of nursery. Here's just some quick examples. As we were going through documenting kind of the decisions we were making with the group. So the primary with the 3-foot crusher fines adjacent to it, other just secondary trails. And then here's some images of what we think that irrigation canal could be. And early on, we showed more examples that were a little more hard bottom, more concrete lined. The general consensus we got from Port and the Tree Advisory Committee was they like the softer approach. Maybe it's a more soft bottom, lots of vegetation growing in it, or there's spots where there are rocks and stones and kids can kind of crawl and play in there as well. And we can control the depth too, right? We can make it the same canal super wide and really shallow, or we can make it really narrow and really deep and just keep the same amount of water going through there. So we can vary the play opportunities in what you're seeing in the canal. And to that point, like it could be natural, really close to the trail, start to get the rocks in there, kids playing in it, or it just kind of, at some points can just separate from the trail into some kind of natural system that's kind of going off in the park areas to explore. And then I'll just show you some views. We tried to get in there, do some modeling and some rendering, and partially it's just because of some of these hills that we're showing. We are showing these at like 15 feet tall right here, both of these, which is a considerable amount of soil. We acknowledge that. We think there's opportunities though, kind of where we kept the top of the hill and the toe of the slope to either bring that down and bring in less fill if needed, and or you could double the size of the hill. We just increase the slope, and we've kind of designed it so you can kind of go either way. We really like the opportunity to go up and down the hills and vary that experience. And I guess I think it's important too, especially right when it's first built, because all the trees are gonna be, like this tall. You're kind of just gonna feel like you're out there. It's kind of nice to get some sort of a landscape experience right off the bat as well. Here's a view looking kind of up in the air, looking southeast from the top. So once again, this is the existing gravel lot there. Here's some of the examples of the community garden beds, the orchard along here. Here's that lawn area with some tents set up for some sort of event. The tree nursery, the crop circle, and then you see a lot of the rest of it as you keep going south. It just becomes a lot more naturalistic, a lot more native, a lot less programmed as well. We have the opportunity to add a bathroom on this northern side, most likely, and incorporate it with one of the picnic shelters. Especially, I think, if you're having some sort of an event or weddings out there, it'd be nice not to have to go over to the playground restroom that's already out there. Here's just a close-up of that garden view. In this one, we just showed sunflowers, when summer growing sunflowers in that whole area. Here's looking at one of the irrigation canal crossings. So there's like a small little boardwalk going over the canal. Off to the right could just be a small playground area, nature play, kind of really just simple, something that's out there that you kind of find and discover along the way. Here's a view looking northwest. It looks like there's less trees in this view than some of the others, and that's partially because of that easement I was talking about and the view corridors. Always opportunities as years go on, trees grow and add and change, but that's just this view. Keeping those view corridors and also trying to keep from this corner like a good visual of the arboretum itself. So we're proposing that a lot of this would be native seed areas out here, pretty low maintenance, low water use. There could be some areas where you just add into that native seed mix some more wildflowers or forbs that then could just add a pop of color and a dramatic like entrance in some of these areas. Or in other areas, you could do the same thing and then you're starting to walk through these wildflower meadows. And then this is a view of that community lawn, how that could look like with kind of the gardens and the perennial beds surrounding the exterior of it, the picnic shelter. And then this is looking back north towards the current rec center itself as you're climbing up one of those hills, looking back over the open area. Really trying to focus too on, there's kind of a sequence as you're walking through a lot of the arboretum. You kind of get constricted, you go into some tree spaces, then it opens up to some big views. You kind of keep going through that sequence and changing your experiences as you go. Tree selection, this would be something that if this project were to continue to move forward, we'd really dive into and start to look at this really closely. So far, Paul from the Forester has provided this list and we've worked with them to kind of come up with a starting point. He would like to really highlight trees that are really tried and true to our climate here and that work, and we can show other residents what they could do. And then after we start going and maybe some microclimates start to get established, in the shadow of some trees or some evergreens, maybe start to grow some harder to grow trees and let that evolve over time naturally. And then the cost, and I'm gonna couch this with we're really early in the process here. This is a master plan. There's a lot of variables here. Inflation, we know, we're going over that at the previous presentation. Lots of variables, including even like the irrigation pond and canal. We did our best to price that, but it's tricky until you really get to the nuts and bolts of what some of these systems are. So we did add a 15% contingency to cut what we came up with. So we're coming in at about $6 million for this project. like kind of as is what you saw on the screen. But like I said, that could go up and down, and there's value engineering opportunities where some of those hills, maybe if you went down to 8 feet, you save a chunk of money right there, right off the bat. Or you take one down, you go up higher in the other one, and you're just kind of where you're at. We kind of broke it into some bigger picture items to try to make it a little bit more digestible. And I think, yeah, that's it. So I'm willing to answer any questions. I think Jeremy wanted to mention something as well, some public outreach.
Yeah, so I just bring your attention to a little bit about public input and some of our feedback. Colorado Open Lands responded this week. They're very supportive of the project. We've reached out to them a couple times in the past year, early January and then this week. It aligns with the conservation easement. They feel very good about our project and design so far. School district, same way. We have asked them to look into the kind of the void open space, and we can review that in a slide tonight between the project and the track. That's their property. They plan on some expansion, just in a small sentence, and so I can move on, but they spent some school expansion in that area as well, but we looked into that and they're gonna get back to us with some more information when they figure that out as well. Put a public survey out, online survey, did really well, got 450 responses back. Very positive, and I just wanna kinda go through it, just kinda you guys get an idea of what the community's thinking. Overall, probably 98% supportive and positive. Lots of great input, lots of great community members. I spent a lot of the time last couple weeks writing down, some more input that I'd like to research, so it was great feedback. First question was just, are you a resident? 86% was yes. Next question, ever been to an arboretum? 60% said yes, 10% said no. We put another reply that said no, but it sounds amazing, 31% checked that one. So, third one was we showed the concept that you all went through tonight and asked what they liked about it. Very positive, almost full support, full positive, lots of input of, it was educational, lots of walking paths, trails like Tyler had mentioned, the flow of the design, it was open space, it's great for families, space to explore, nature in town, pollinators, garden spot, that type of thing. So lots of responses on those. Number 4, we asked what would you like to be added or adjusted. Got some not negative comments, but that's where kind of I would change this, you give people opportunity, and some people did voice their opinion that they didn't like it. About 20 responses I told up that were adverse to the project, and that's we want that. We encourage that because we need to know and why. But the other 300 responses gave us, some more good feedback, and some of those was, and Tyler went through the presentation of they want to get in the canal, they want their kids to play in the water, more benches, more picnic areas, lighting at night, safe and secure, sculptures, public art, more shelters and bathrooms, and we can address some of this stuff. So good stuff. The last one was how they would commute to the park, and that was pretty balanced, is 35% walk, 22% bike, and 43% would drive. Social media posts on Facebook went out with the survey. It reached over 70,000, was the reach with 7,300 engagement is some of the data we got back, the numbers, which is outstanding.
Is engagement like clicking on it or responding in a comment?
Yeah.
Okay.
700 reactions, 674 liked it. I don't know if that means that their ability to share or they just, that was interesting or loved it or whatever. There's 240 comments out of that that were good as well, with no asking, just kind of raw, comments back to us, and over 1,000 photo views and 35 shares. So we feel this is a great, looking back at I was telling Tyler when we did the port plan in 2016, we mailed out 2,300 surveys and we got, I think, 300 back or something like that. And we were seeing that success, so.
That was with Green Play, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So, anyway, just wanted to get that back, and we're taking, tonight's a chance to give feedback and get more feedback from the community. Keith is here as well. He's been spearheading this project with us tonight, Public Works Operations Manager. So we're looking for feedback and next steps, but we're looking forward to any questions or any of your input, so.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you both. Great presentation. I got a question. Who wants to start? Mr. Hardy?
So most of the park is gonna be mostly just kind of all natural. It's not gonna be mowed grass. It's gonna be kind of.
Yeah, a lot of that in the current plan is just natural, like native seed areas.
Like
Um,
native seed, like in like meadow, or
Yeah.
kind of like what we've got native seed right now on the sides of Bunyan Avenue that look like grass that's really nasty.
Preferably not like that, like a meadow.
More meadowy?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the goal, is like a meadow type planting that is, or prairie, like a prairie look and feel.
Because I don't
think
want
it is
more-
what
I
you're
don't want
talking
more of
about,
the
Tim.
same of the natural.
I think you guys are talking about the same thing. You're
I'm
talking about
seeing-
Bunyan by the rec center.
Yeah, like north of the rec center, there's all those natural, they just kind of put native grasses in there and it just looks like it's not being kept.
Yeah.
So I want something that looks like, yeah, it's natural, but it's also nice looking and not something that looks like we need to put a citation on you even though you're wrong. The other thing is you've got those two hills going.
Yep.
And this brought back some thoughts that I've had with Will before about like a bandstand sort of scenario or like a concert type grassy knoll. The bigger one would be kind of a cool concert grassy knoll thing with maybe a stage, and the smaller one maybe have like the bandstand type scenario.
Like a gazebo kind of.
Like a gazebo, bandstand, central bands, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Are those things that would be permissible under the conservation easement that we could put that kind of structure in those areas?
Structures are kind of
Hard.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like one question that I got brought up was a restroom possibly on the south side of the easement, and that got declined as a structure. So
Okay.
I would assume structures like that wouldn't be
But
allowed.
like maybe
Kiosks and
something
signage.
like a natural, like in this bigger hill here, building something down there where it kind of wants to cross the irrigation ditch.
Mhm.
Maybe having some sort of like a natural stone bridge.
I could,
that
yeah,
can
I could see like
build
stone
the
seating or
stage,
like a
right.
stone stage that
Yeah.
is built into the hillside, but it's
And
all
then you can sit
natural.
on the hill and do like some sort of concerts and stuff down there.
Yeah,
Or set up one of those big old blow up movie screens and do
Yeah.
movie park there.
that'd be great.
That's kind of what I was picturing with this kind of that bowl looking thing.
Uh-huh.
And then the smaller one where you have the 7, I was thinking of that kind of that old timey round gazebo sort of, you know, that sort of thing.
Like, yeah, like as a shade picnic type structure
Yeah.
in that zone.
So those are just kind of some comments that I had, and then or questions. The other thing is have you looked at like what Steamboat did with their at the base of their mountain with their river?
Yes. Yeah.
Because that's kind of cool where kids can get in there and dam stuff up. And when I was just in Germany, I went to a park there as well where they had kind of an irrigation ditch coming in, and the kids could play with like, you know, they could kind of dig in the gravel and kind of make like a lake, and then they had little dams that they could.
Yeah, we've talked about
dam
exactly
stuff up
that, like
and
some sort of maybe like a
route
spur
it.
of it, and you can start to
Yeah.
manipulate the water.
And that's what I kept picturing when you said playland thing. But then I was also thinking, can we do duck races in that? Could we set it up that we could do a duck race on birthday day or something?
Pretty fun.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's all I've got, other than my concern for the event park area being so close to the pickleball courts.
I was gonna point that out.
There'd have to be some sort of rental thing that, do you want pickleball turned on or off during our events?
Good luck.
you
Good
turn on-
luck.
when you
They're
turn
gonna
on
ruin your
fire
wedding.
hoses.
That's a great
So-
point.
That's a good
That's a really good point.
But
Yeah.
that's
Pickleball
the
is
only
not gonna
comment I have for that area too. I love the idea of being able to have an event there, like
Yeah,
tasting or a wedding or something, but. Or maybe flip-flopping the arboretum in that park or something, I don't know, but the pickleball noise is the only thing
that's,
that.
yeah, great point.
I guess this looks awesome. I guess question one, and I think you guys touched on it, I just wanna make sure there was a conservation easement. This falls within that conservation easement agreement, so that there's nothing fishy going on, like the Wagoner folks of Wagoner, like they'll see this and go, okay, this falls within the purview. I'm just making sure that the town wise, we're not kind of overstepping what that agreement looks like. Is that,
Correct, and Colorado Open Lands is the one who kind of guides us on that.
Okay.
And so they reviewed it and they said we actually did a really good job of combining everything that they thought that easement could have in it, agriculture, passive recreation, and so forth.
Sure.
They said that's something hard to do and they think we nailed it, so.
sure, okay. I guess one, cause I know, to and from the rec center, people do jog, so I guess like markers on the concrete of like distances, people are like, you start here, you got this far, this is how far, cause otherwise it's just, steps are inaccurate. Another one actually,
App is for.
right,
Be a good spot for a cross-country race.
yeah,
Yeah.
just keep going up and down hills, don't want until you wanna die.
Steeplechase.
Yeah. I guess one, saw a comment in there, and I know trustee Albrecht had actually brought it up last meeting. Potential for an ice rink, a natural ice rink. Is that a thing that could, like the pond, like wintertime, it's that season, we could turn that potentially into like a local seasonal ice rink? Is that a possibility we could use?
So if the pond is allowed, which is, so far we haven't heard it's not allowed, but it would be filled with level lake and ditch water, so it would fluctuate, and something, most of our ponds that we feel like Pioneer, those drop in the winter time, so you can't just fill it back up
Okay.
technically. So I mean, there's other ways around it, if we wanted to fill it with some potable water probably, but it being an irrigation pond, it'd be expected to probably drop down in the winter time.
Okay. I mean, is there, as we're just planning around this, is that something that we could plan for moving forward as a way, it's just an ice rink, it's over winter. Is that a thing that we could build into this as just a concept, like the natural kind of open garden, or not open garden, open lawn?
Yeah.
Yeah, you might.
I was just gonna say, I don't know how realistic like the actual irrigation pond could be for an ice rink along the Front Range to like stay frozen and safe throughout the year.
Sure.
It might, be upwards of 5, 6, 7 feet deep, just so we're not losing as much water to evaporation.
Okay.
However, I think your point's really, it could be really cool, and I see an opportunity doing it in some of these temporary areas up on the
Sure.
north side.
Yeah.
Where in the summer you're growing pumpkins, as soon as you harvest those and you have a pumpkin festival, you clear it out and you can put it down temporary rink. And that's where they just put like, the 2 inches of ice on there.
Yeah.
Close
And
to parking too.
And it's close to the parking, it's all on that north side, there's restrooms up there.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
quicker ambulance access for. No, that was that,
Yeah, that'd be
I guess-
great.
And I guess this kind of actually goes back to the conservation easement, any kind of natural, like, I guess, street lighting, not street light, just sidewalk lights along the way. I'm just imagining as this thing is built out and people are using it more, if they're gonna use it kind of at dusk or at night, I know it's, technically closed, but, is there any plans for lighting out there at this time, or is that going against it?
Little solar lights.
Right, yeah, dark sky compliant, but lighting kind of along any of these pathways, are there any
We have no
plans?
like lighting plan put together,
Okay.
but assuming it'd be trails,
Mhm.
I don't think we would extend, I couldn't see higher lighting like we already have at the rec center
Sure.
out there, maybe in some spots, some locations, but definitely the bollard type lighting to light the
I will say,
pathways.
even the street lights,
Yeah.
or they really light the pathway along the perimeter of the property now.
Mhm.
We're an issue with Colorado Open Lands. So we had to convince them that they were necessary for public safety along the roadway, for them to say yes to. So I think they'd be really hesitant to see lighting in that area outside of potentially some of those kind of solar bollards or something like that. Definitely
Right.
no overhead lighting.
Okay, I mean, solar bollards honestly would be fine, it's just, I'm just imagining, somebody walking around at night and they go into the little irrigation ditch or something, cause they couldn't see it, that's my only, but I mean, just enough to see where you're going, but no, that's.
Like Keith said, we really haven't put together a lighting plan, but for costing purposes, we did include some kind of basic lighting on that northern edge, just with the picnic shelters and restrooms, some of that basic safety lighting, that's as far as we took it at this point.
Something can be added later. once we get-
Yeah, if that passive thing, that's how I remember it too, like lighting might be tough, is that what you're talking about? Yeah, the passive side of the easement. I also like farmsteads. I know the developer screwed up, they were supposed to be for vehicles and then he chose pedestrian lighting instead, but they look good, so
I like our lights too.
yeah, not made for vehicles, but they're good, cause they're closer.
That's all I had.
Trustee Ayers?
Most of my questions have already been answered. Is there any update about a possible trail connection to Lake and that crossing?
It is there, you're talking about right here, right? it is in our notes and something we're continuing to look at, basically with this project or with if we were to widen Bertha Parkway around there as well. So we are keeping an eye on that. It's just been-
Trustee Kurtz.
Yeah, not a ton of questions. I think it's awesome. I wish it was already here. It's
Yeah.
really great. At least in concept. Having, kind of walk through I guess the renderings and everything, I used to live really close to Washington Park in Denver, and so definitely a lot of Wash Park-esque vibes.
Yep.
They kind of built a park on top of an irrigation canal, so
Yep.
the canals were already like there in place, and they kind of built the park around it, but it's a prominent park and kind of very well utilized, so I don't think that this one would be any different. I was gonna make the pickleball comment because I think there might need to be a 15-minute courtesy pause that's implemented during ceremonies or something like that. So you don't have that.
In Beetlejuice, we brought up pickleball 3 times. They're gonna show up.
Herb's gonna show up.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think there might have been some email traffic about it, I think accidentally to me, because me and Administrator Kirk have very similar names. But I would be remiss, I'd be remiss if I didn't plug Northern Water a little bit and say, when you get to plant selection and irrigation features, Northern Water can be a resource if you desire.
Okay, great, yeah.
Absolutely. Me and Frank have been going back and forth on that, so.
Yeah.
Trustee Albrecht.
My biggest question is just kind of what the community is concerned about, which is water consumption, and so I just was curious if we have just any type of data on this current rendition on what the consumption is gonna be like, or how that is gonna impact what we can provide as a town right now and how we get there, and then just kind of, the curiosity that people have about that funding source and how we're gonna fund that for, the years to come.
Absolutely. Did you put anything else? So the property comes with a couple shares of water of Level Lake and Ditch right now. That's not enough to do the whole property, but we would assume the whole property would be watered with non-potable water, likely coming from our Level Lake and Ditch shares.
We own a significant amount of Level Lake and Ditch water, and we fully intend the ultimate and highest and best use of that water is for non-potable irrigation, just like this. And so that water can't be used in its current condition without going through water court and a whole bunch of other stuff for potable use. And so it really is, will be the backbone of our non-pot systems as those continue to expand throughout town. So we do have plenty of non-potable water available, both that is tied to this property and can't be used anywhere else, and then other non-potable resources we can deliver here.
Brilliant, thank you.
I just want to chime in just because I think about water all day long. I think as we encourage folks, through our land use, our landscape guidance and other, water rates and whatnot to be more efficient with their water use, maybe even shrinking their own personal lawns, investing in community spaces where they can still kind of get out into that nature is, a good use of the water too, especially when it's coming from non-potable sources, so.
Trustee Murphy?
I guess I'd just be happy to, hear about kind of staff's coordination with Northern Water as well as TSD, kind of on these both of these issues, kind of the water issue as well as TSD on, that parcel to the east of the property and where things kind of stand right now, I guess, with the discussions.
Right, with the Thompson School District, we had a meeting with a handful of them. They weren't the ones that could answer the questions fully, exactly. So we asked about the property and they basically said, it's likely just for their expansion. But they'd ask the people above them and figure that out. The water usage, they are somewhat interested to see if there's a pond there, if that's something they could possibly utilize as well, because they're kind of on potable at that school right now, and maybe they could switch over to non-pot, and their system is very close to ours and needs a couple upgrades to make it work properly, and a pond would really help it actually. So there's a handful of questions that we're waiting on them to respond back to, and that's kind of where Thompson School District's at. Northern Water reached out, us and I speak with Frank pretty much every year about different irrigation projects throughout town, so I basically said as soon as we hear the board's feedback and if there's any changes, we'd come to Northern Water and they'd review our irrigation plans. Once we actually got to that step, we don't really have irrigation plans laid out at the moment. But they'd be happy to review those plans and plant selection, and then I don't know if that would open grant opportunities as well, and they usually have good ideas too.
That was kind of what I was curious about. As well as that, just bringing up irrigation and the infrastructure we're talking about, kind of putting in for the plan we've got. Is there any considerations about oversizing it for future tree plantings, or alternative kind of arrangements of vegetation and landscaping on the property as it develops over time?
Yeah, I believe so, and Tyler. can
Yeah,
usually speak
that
to
would be the
phasing.
goal for sure, and when the size of this pond, what's drawn on the screen, we came up with when we were working on the rest of the Wagner Farm Park project back years ago. Just as that size, we had an irrigation consultant help us out, kind of size it and how much water you would need for a lot of the site. I think there are opportunities to make sure it is adequate for future use. The other thing I really didn't touch on though is a lot of those native seed areas, if we get them established right, and that could take 3 to 4 years easily, you almost wouldn't have to water them again. You could just turn it off and only do it maybe in August for a week here and there as needed. And really just be drip irrigating to a lot of the trees, and even those as they get older aren't gonna be as much either. They're gonna be able to tap into other water.
Awesome. And then one more, I guess, thought. You know, I looked at both these hills and saw that it'd be a great opportunity to at least use one of them for kind of a sledding hill during the
Yeah, I
winter.
was just thinking.
You know, we go over to Pioneer Park, me and my kids and stuff, and I love trees, but they're kind of all in the wrong position over
To
there.
go sledding.
So, like, you know, when we're looking at the plan, if there could be kind of more of a designated kind of area where we keep it tree free, I
That'd be
guess.
great, yeah.
That's just a thought I had. Otherwise, I think it's an exceptional plan, and I'm really looking forward to it moving forward, so.
They go hand in hand with my stage idea, cause you don't want trees in the way of the stage.
Yeah, there you go.
I love it too, actually. I haven't talked with Ms. Valier, but talking through her out this whole process, I think you guys nailed kind of I never thought we'd be able to do a pond, so I think that's awesome. And I think that's very much in the interest of the school district. They have so much to irrigate too, that they could use this that pond at a different time too. So I see your point, Director Knoll, that it would fluctuate, but I think it's fantastic. I love the canal. I mean, Chris knows I've
We've been talking about a canal for a while.
a long time, man. And this one's great. It's not just recreational. It's also it has a function. So there's many purposes to it. You know, it's actually irrigating as well.
Yeah.
Not just a pump. Going on the northern theme, it would be neat if at all possible to try and make that look like the handy. Maybe try and weave it like the topography of our ditch. How Northern did it with the river system in their
Yeah.
lakes. You know, like
The northern part of the irrigation canal, you're saying?
I'm
The
saying
northern
that
part of-
Northern Water has, if you've been to their water feature, they tied all of their man-made lakes together
Okay.
as a water feature. But here we could tie all of the Handy's man-made lakes,
Oh, yeah.
including, you know, Lone Tree and all those ones, and then the river would connect them, or just the river itself, the canal could weave. But just a thought. I
Yeah.
really like how Northern did it. It was kind of,
You know, where they show horse tooth and.
yeah, they have little signs too, so you can
Okay,
see.
yeah. Okay.
I had some more too. Okay, so yeah, I also really like the pivot, even though, you know, this no longer seems to be like a functioning ag thing anymore. I think that made sense sooner or later,
Functional
right?
Pivot would be cool.
Well, I meant, sorry, the circuit, yeah, the pivot area.
Yeah, oh,
So did we last year, before we'd make very little money off of a lease from the farmer, right? It was like 20,000-30,000 to farm Wagner. Did we make anything last year?
It's less than, it's,
Okay.
yeah, it's much less than that.
Those are older
I was guessing it must have gotten worse. When I started, it was like 30 under my card, so I guess it got worse and worse. I was wondering last year if we ended up paying them or something, cause
It almost came out even.
Even?
Kinda-
Okay.
Kinda turning the field over.
Yeah. I think that's important for the community to know too, that we're heavily subsidizing or really helping out. You are in particular, the farmers and stuff. So I think sooner or later, it's not commercially viable for them to get the tractors all the way out. So I really like it overall. I think it's great. The sledding is also, yeah, fantastic. The only negative thing is, I agree with trustee Hardy. I think it's just a natural human nature to make things look green. Developers do it too. But I've never seen the rec center, that area, that kind of greenery on the native grass. So I kind of look at the greenery grass, actually, that would be brown. And that's all right, you know, I guess when it is that long, it's really hard to be any kind of use to it. You know, you're not gonna trudge around in there, throw a frisbee or something. So it's almost like off limits at that height, you know? Do you have any thoughts on that?
A couple.
Okay.
There are opportunities to do like a low grow mix.
Okay.
So it could be native seed, it only gets like 18 inches, 2 feet tall. So it's not like up here. There are also much taller ones that you could do. The other thing I was gonna say is some of these images, there's a lot of precedents around that do this, where they start to just take those native areas and they just mow a path in there. And it could be a completely different spot next month when you mow it again the next time.
Okay.
And you can slowly kind of just open up other opportunities and areas as well.
Any chance to add wildflowers throughout the whole thing, like that one on the top right? Or is that like an English climate that wouldn't?
I mean, we can definitely add wildflowers to a lot of the seed mix.
I think any kind of color, I think,
Yeah,
and it's not just Tim and I think there's a local thing of the native grass is
Yeah.
just brown, so any kind of variety, color would be really awesome.
Yeah.
The irrigation ditch, could you use any of the pond, cause you're dredging, could you any of that to help
Yes.
make the hill? Okay.
Yep.
I thought I was original on that, apparently you already thought of it. Yeah, that's it, thank you again, this is awesome, cause we've worked with the school district on irrigation.
Yep.
This largely covers that area, I think it really is in their best interest.
It'll solve a lot of problems. Keith and his team have talked to some of the representatives of the school district. I meet with the superintendent and their chief operations officer every 2 weeks. And we've talked a little bit about the opportunities out here, fixing their irrigation system to run off non-pot, the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And
That pump
and
is,
then
yeah.
working collaboratively on some of their unused ground, understanding that they need some room for expansion, and they're working through plans right now for some expansion at Turner. But also knowing that that's on the other side of the football field and probably unlikely to get utilized, and so trying to find creative ways to partner together on that ground. And it could free up, you know, one of the concerns that Colorado Open Lands had was putting a restroom down on the southern end of the Arboretum. That was some of the feedback. It was limited, but there was some feedback through Facebook about having some, you know, restrooms at the south end, because it is a long way. I mean, I think if you haven't walked it, you don't realize it's a pretty good distance. And Colorado Open Lands wasn't really thrilled about the idea of a restroom on the southern end and how that might impact kind of the overall conservation values.
So what is their definition of passive? No electricity and no plumbing, or, cause can you not even do like a shade shelter?
I think we could do a shade shelter. I think that there is some opportunity there. You know, they're hesitant to see a lot of big structures built of any kind, but you know, knowing that shade is a reasonable and important piece of a park or an arboretum, I think they're okay with those kinds of things.
Make it like a hay barn, and put like hay bales in there.
Yeah, why not, right? I mean, I think there's some cool agricultural themed ideas we could do for shade structures and stuff like that. But you know, if maybe we could partner with the school district to put the restroom on their property,
Yeah.
where it's not encumbered by a conservation easement, but immediately adjacent
by
to
their
or something
shed.
like that, you know?
Benefit them for their sports or track meets and.
Yeah, exactly. It could be a, it
That
could be a
makes sense,
nice
cause they use,
collaborative opportunity.
they all use one outhouse or one portable thing over by the gym, that would be great to have something
Yep,
permanent.
so I think there's some cool collaborative opportunities like that we've kind of
Yeah.
started to explore.
Well, they should be happy, we'd be funding a lot of that irrigation improvements, that huge pump they have that is kind of abandoned now, this would really help them out with a lot of things. Even if they didn't use that pump. I never mentioned the Arboretum, I was always kind of confused, you know, I love the Denver, or was it LA Arboretum? I've been to the Denver
Botanical
Botanical
Gardens,
Gardens, but I don't know if there was an Arboretum within it. Anyway, I just saw trees here, I was like, that's great, but what's the Arboretum? It's great, I learned that now, that you have like different types for different areas, I guess that's species in different areas, but you can kind of walk through it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And look at different trees and different, like some of these are trees out on their own, almost like a trees as a specimen feature, just out in a field, like its own just piece out there, versus other areas where you're engulfed and encased in the trees like you're in a pine forest. Lots of different experiences.
Yeah, tree museum.
We should plan.
Fort Collins, their forester actually planted a bunch of giant sequoia, and now some of them are pretty big. One's at Roland Moore, it's big,
You
it's
gotta
great.
plant a big pine tree out there that designated for Rockefeller Christmas tree.
There we go, there we go, yeah.
2054.
Specimen pine tree, yeah.
Convince Paul to do some of that.
Future Rockefeller Christmas tree.
Here, I
Yeah.
have one more
Please, go ahead.
comment, just about kind of the school district collaboration. So earlier today I was at the Colorado Farm Show out in Greeley, and one of the panels was really talking about the disconnect between, you know, how I guess like food and fiber is grown and, you know, the growth of the Front Range, and just people don't really understand how they get food on their plate. And so with a community garden concept or something being right there and being so close to the school, there might be some opportunity to not just partner on infrastructure, but partner with curriculum or something like that, where they could come over and
A farm study.
it could be one grade versus the other for growing the largest pumpkin, or just, you know, just anything to kind of get kids thinking about where their food actually comes from.
Definitely. I also agree with yours too, of with the water efficiency. I think it's a personal view though, if for, you know, some of the restrictions would be more residential, but we've gotta keep the parkland, especially for people that don't even have a backyard. They need somewhere to play,
Yeah.
you know, in an apartment place. So I know there's a lot of push for water efficiency, but I think great place for water is in the parkland where everyone can use it, so. I think it's great. Sorry, I was rambling, but great job.
I have a couple things, to get some more thoughts on, and Mr. Carspect, you alluded to it earlier. Just some two design elements, as I work through the surveys and get that public input, wanna bring it to your attention, just get some more thoughts on it. The two design elements, while there's lots of comments and things, onesie, twosies, fours, two design elements came forward. One is your thoughts and feedback about the pivot. There was kind of a 50-50 through the surveys about, and maybe it was misunderstood as a design element, but there was a 50-50 of whether it should be in there or not, yes and no. So I just want to get some additional thoughts on what you guys think about having that pivot in the design and working through that as the first element.
Trustee Murphy?
I kinda like it as an element, honestly. I think making it non-functional is probably a better way to go from a maintenance and operations standpoint. But I would be for keeping it, honestly.
I think an irrigation pivot with some kind of porch swings hanging from it or
I
something.
like that, so having dual uses on that.
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of what was envisioned, knowing that it would be.
It ties it into a farm. It might be the only implement on the property that is a farm implement or a farm use.
Right.
So you see that, you instantly recognize it. Someone used the word crop circle. I think the other opportunity was like some kind of alien spaceship. I like it, sorry.
And yeah, you caught I didn't know if you wanted Tyler to explain it, but you guys got the design intent and kind of a tag to our historical and you know, educational tools, so good. The other one that was kind of a fence between it was the community garden. With the lean, I'd say probably 54, but probably more to take it out. The community garden had a lot of responses of yes and no, take it out, and a lot of the no's were referencing the ones we have already and not maybe we, but the town as a whole, the community, Prairie Star and Pioneer Park, and how they're unsightly and not maintained and they didn't work, and you know, kind of the why are we doing it again. So just your thoughts and feedbacks about the community garden element you see.
Yeah, I was wondering if you couldn't maybe use it in the same way as the tree nursery for perennials or something like that to try out the flowers that go up on the different parks and then on the roadways. If the community doesn't have enough interest to kind of keep it up, that might be a good use for it. I also, based on one of the pictures, it reminded me, what about a small apiary or something like that?
Ooh.
Yeah, I guess it plays the hives.
Yeah.
Right next to pickleball.
That's great. I wondered that too, because I went to, I didn't know the president of the Metros, they were thinking about closing it, because I guess so few use it at Prairie Star. So I wondered that too, of who's gonna maintain it. They are a lot of work, but you know, if it's a garden spot and if the people really want it, it's a great place for people that can't have a garden. But that's a great solution, Trustee Ayers is, or maybe even the demonstration type things that Northern has, where you see a variety there, but they're permanent. I like either of those.
Mayor.
Yes, please, Trustee Albrecht. Trustee Albrecht. Oh, Trustee Murphy.
No, that's all right. I just wanted to bring up one of the items we discussed at tree committee last night, about the community garden. It seems like a possible idea of literally allowing citizens to buy a box for the season of some sort. If you put the money up front, it's kind of their responsibility to manage what goes into it. We're supplying a constant source of water to go along with it, but again, I question the maintenance aspect of the whole thing. Not that it looks beautiful, but whether
Yeah.
it can be maintained is the question, I think.
Prairie Stars is like that, you have your own plot, yeah, which I thought was interesting. What would, is there any alternatives if that was gone, what that would be? Sorry, did I interrupt you? Go ahead, Trustee. Can't stop,
I'm sorry.
I can't stop.
Just even, I didn't have this idea till looking at it, but because of the scale of this project, the history that's involved, the knowledge of the different gardening aspects, the trees, it'd be really amazing to hire somebody who's running it and providing either tours and history lessons, gardening lessons. I think it would be remiss to have the community own any part of it because it's gonna be hard to manage that or have volunteer programs. But maybe if you had someone who was paid to run a volunteer program, but they really were, I mean, even leading tours and educational tours, I think that'd be a huge way to impact the entire community with here's how to plant these trees, the gardens, and here's the history of Wagner. I mean, that's how you keep that history alive, really, is to provide somebody with that knowledge base. I think that could be really amazing.
Yeah.
One of the things we've discussed with Bertha Local, you know, we're contracting with them to provide some garden educational classes, the rec center and other places. And we've talked to them a little bit about working on a redesign of the garden at Pioneer Park. It's hard to maintain, which is one of the reasons why it doesn't look so great. Just the way it was designed and built, it's a struggle for their kind of small group. But if we can kind of clean that up and they can expand their base of volunteers and support, then we could also contract with them to help manage this garden if we could do that. And so Bertha Local could provide that kind of programming, educational courses. They could also come and help take care of it and use the you know, plants and produce, whatever they grow there for whatever it is they like right now, a lot of what they donate goes to House Neighborly Services. So I think there could be some really cool collaborative partnerships, think like very much like what you described. We've had some of these conversations with them already in just to get their wheels rolling, knowing that this is probably still a couple years out.
Or get a restaurant that goes into the old town hall spot to be a farm to table restaurant, then they can use this part to grow their food.
Well, you really could imagine some really amazing farm to table fundraising dinners out here
Yeah.
using produce grown at what I'd call the garden spot, but maybe that.
Well, that's a great point. I've never thought of this all like, you know, I've thought of it just as the plot, Trustee Kurt, back to the northern comments, you know, of having just a garden area that's not for produce, like a perennial type thing.
Absolutely, it's a great
Um,
idea.
So, but it's a big enough area that we could, I mean, that's almost the size of that northern garden, almost, just that section alone. Like,
Yeah.
I know that the big thing would be the maintenance, but if we could solve that master gardener or whatever issue to have people maintain it, gotta be beautiful to have a municipal garden.
And it may be that, you know, we've talked even internally about, as this project moves forward and some of the other things we have going on, hiring a horticulturalist on staff, to help, you know, Paul and his forestry team do an awesome job taking care of our trees and open spaces, and adding some of that additional expertise, to his wheelhouse. He has a lot of that expertise too, but I mean, just kind of building that capability internally. A project like this is gonna require some extra horticulture and or open space forestry staff regardless. You know, so I think there's a lot of ways we could tackle that.
What about flip-flopping the garden over to where the pavilion is closer to the pickleballs and then put the pavilion over on this side? Cause in that way the tree arboretum or the tree farm nursery
It's all kind of part
is
of that.
next to the,
Yeah.
it's all being actively worked on that one side.
Mm-hmm.
And then the service road could help service the
Good community
the
garden,
community
everything,
garden
yeah.
area as well as the tree nursery area.
It's a great thought.
Great point.
Yeah.
How many years out we looking? Anyone else I can interrupt?
Well, I think the answer to that is how fast do you want us to go? So, you know, what we've done so far is a conceptual design, to take that to construction drawings, to not be an inexpensive effort. And that'll take some time. This is a really large property and a lot of kind of unique issues and constraints we'll have to work through. And so part of the reason we wanted to show it to you tonight was to get all this awesome feedback so that we can help refine those designs, then also see Is this something you want us to prioritize from a funding standpoint to get design going? We only budgeted money for this conceptual design. Cause one, we didn't know exactly where we would end up and how much we thought it might cost and whether or not it might make sense to prioritize this over some other projects or in parallel with some other projects. If this is something you would like as a board to see us accelerate, I'd like to come back to you and tell you exactly how we'll do that in the context of the other couple of projects that we have going on. The next one you should see in February at Richardson Park, or what we will suggest a name change to you at that meeting as well. We'd like you to take a look at that park, think about these two things in concert with each other, and then we can talk about timing and expense and then decide where we wanna focus our efforts from here forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we're cool with acceleration. I think we always are.
Yeah, I'd at least like know what it would look like and what the trade-offs would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, do you want to take anybody that?
I would love to.
Sorry.
Thank you very much for that.
I didn't
Yes,
want you to
please.
miss that.
Yeah, I did. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this? Please, if there is. Okay, cool. Anyone online by chance?
No, Mayor Kurtzbeck.
Deputy Town Administrator Williams. Yes, it sounds like we're all right with accelerating, or coming back with the, yeah.
Well, and I think
detailed.
we'll work internally to see if we can put together, we'll see how quickly we can get together a proposal to take this through construction drawings, so we kind of have an idea what that cost looks like. And then we'll be able to present maybe both of these things to you kind of in parallel in February after Richardson's gone to the board committee. To kind of look at that design update and where we're at there. We'll just bring it all at once and we'll kind of talk about it as kind of a holistic system, because these are really our two next big parks efforts. Richardson will be kind of the sports park that was conceived of in the neighborhood in the Parks Master Plan back in 2018. And this, as a former trustee told me, I'm sure he's not the first person to say it. I don't know who
He might be.
But the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. So the faster you go, the better it.
I thought you were gonna say Jeff's quote that this is our what's the one in New York, the huge one in?
This is our Central Park.
Yeah.
I feel
love that
very much
idea.
the same way.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I was just thinking it's would be the garden spot of the garden spot.
Yeah,
It's I always call it the garden spa arboretum, but Berthoud Arboretum has a nice ring to it too. So. We'll see.
I can't say arboretum very well. We'll go
Tree
garden
place.
spot.
Just call it the garden spot.
if we have any other ideas that come to us afterwards, just email you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
thought
I
about
mean, this will be an ongoing effort, because this is a kind of a unique facility with trees and parkland. As we go through design, there will be check-in points with the tree advisory committee and the port committee and the town board.
okay, just bring stuff up.
Yeah, we'll just continue to keep this thing moving forward.
I just thought of the raptor posts. There's always a hawk on those flagpoles.
Oh, yeah.
And with having more native grass, we'll probably have more
Yeah.
mice and stuff, so.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Rabbits.
Mosquitoes.
Yeah, bat boxes, thank
Foxholes,
you.
there's tons of fox in there.
True,
We talked a lot about bat boxes, so
Awesome.
great idea.
Helps with the mosquitoes.
Is there anything else from the board?
It's awesome, that's some rapid.
Thank you, staff. This was fantastic. Thank you. A lot of work going into this.
Yeah.
Looks great.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Okay. Next, we'll move on to agenda item number 4. This is consideration of approval of the form of an agreement for reimbursement associated with Farmstead Filing 3 for construction of a roundabout. Administrator Kirk?
Thank you, Mayor Karspeck, and trustees. If it's okay, I'll address both 4 and 5 on the agenda together. They're related, although they are
Can't
separate,
complain.
if that's okay.
Absolutely.
And then certainly we can answer questions about them independently, and we would ask that you take action on them independently. But the first item, you heard about this very recently, the roundabout at Highway 56 and County Line Road, and the discussion about whether or not we wanted to cost share that roundabout, or whether or not we wanted to have a signal constructed there for a little less money. The town board said the desire was to work together with the developer to cost share this roundabout. So we've prepared a reimbursement agreement, and at its kind of top level, the way that reimbursement agreement will work, there's an estimated cost of construction. We've gone through and worked with the developer to identify what are the eligible costs for reimbursement. There's some things we will not reimburse for that are just a natural part of the project. The traffic study identified that 57% of the traffic in that intersection is the town's kind of background traffic, and 43% is the responsibility or be generated by the development the farmstead development, and so we would cover 57% of the eligible costs. Those are identified in the packet. It's roughly $3.6 million. The way that will work is that after construction is complete and we've reached substantial completion, we'll do kind of a true up of costs, and the town's responsibility will be 57% of the estimated costs that are identified in the agreement, or the actual costs if those are less. So the lesser of the two amounts, if it ends up being less expensive to construct than we have it estimated. And then we will not make a cash payment, but instead we will reimburse the developer on a monthly basis as the development moves forward with the impact fees, the transportation impact fees that are collected from building in the subdivision. So not the impact fees that are collected from other subdivisions or projects in town, but only those in the farmstead filings 2 and 3. And again, those will continue until the developer's been reimbursed for that amount, or until there's no more building left in the farmstead. So that's in kind of summary how that agreement is structured, and we're happy to answer any questions that we have or that you have about that. And there is a termination provision in there, I think at 10 years, is that the sunset provision, so if it hasn't been paid back in 10 years, then we're done. The sewer agreement is similar, similarly structured. There are eligible costs identified. There's an estimated total cost. We will pay the lesser of the actual cost to construct, or our percentage of the estimated total cost. In this case, it's not based on the amount of sewer flow in that pipeline like it would be with like traffic flow through the roundabout. Instead, it's based on the difference in cost between what would have been required by the developer and what we would like to see constructed to solve some current problems that we have along the First Street sewer corridor, and then also plan for future growth and development. So we're paying for the oversizing of what would normally be kind of the minimum standard for them, if that makes sense. Our expectation is that will be paid for with wastewater impact fees. Those impact fees, just like the transportation impact fees, are collected so that growth pays its own way. We collect from new building these impact fees, and they're used to pay for expansions to the system, like an oversizing or a new intersection. That fund is healthy, and we would expect that we would go ahead and pay for our portion of that oversizing expense upon substantial completion of that project. So when that sewer line is installed, we've inspected it and believe it's substantially complete, then we can go ahead and pay for our portion of that as a one-time payment rather than as reimbursement of future impact fees. So they're very similar agreements, but the payment is really where they differ. So we're happy to answer any questions that you have. Steve Schroyer, the representative for the developer, is here. But otherwise, our recommendation would be that you approve both of these agreements tonight in substantial form, with the caveat that any final approval to that agreement, we're still working out some kind of legalese, if I could put it that way, subject to this town attorney's final approval. We believe these are substantially complete agreements.
So kind of put a writer in with the motion, so like subject to
final approval by the town administrator and town attorney.
Mr. Shortland, anything to add? Okay. Yeah, it's just more in depth of the overall theme, so it makes sense. Any questions for Town Administrator Kirk? Ready to do that? Okay.
Sure. I move to approve the reimbursement agreement between the town of Berthoud and LGI Homes Colorado LLC for the construction of a roundabout at Mountain Avenue and County Line Road, subject to approval by town attorney. Town administrator. And attorney.
Mayor Pro Tem Grace has moved, Trustee Kurtz has seconded. Is there any amendment?
I don't mind seconding, but I didn't second.
Oh, who was that? Oh, Trustee Murphy, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good, it's all good.
Trustee Murphy has seconded. Is there any amendments or final discussion? Clerk, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Kurtz,
Yes.
trustee Albrecht,
Yes.
trustee Ayers,
Yes.
trustee Hardy,
Yes.
trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grace.
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes.
I move to approve the reimbursement agreement between the town of Berthoud and LGI Homes Colorado LLC regarding sanitary sewer extension cost, subject to approval by town attorney and town administrator.
Second.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem Grace has moved on this agenda item. Trustee Murphy has seconded. Is there any amendments or final discussion on this? Clerk, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Ayers,
Yes.
trustee Albrecht,
Yes.
trustee Kurtz,
Yes.
trustee Hardy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grace.
Yes.
Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, we can move on now to our final agenda item tonight. And this is a general marijuana code amendment. This is a public hearing, so treat it a little bit more like a legal pattern court. We'll have the applicant, which is also, I guess, you're not the applicant, but you're the
I
professional.
can be the
You
applicant.
can be both. The board can then ask you questions. If there's anyone in the audience that wishes to come and speak to it, it would be considered testimony. That'll close, then we'll bring it back to the board for deliberation. Clerk Samora, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Karsbeck, and good evening, Board of Trustees. Before you this evening is an ordinance amending the municipal code, chapters 13 and 30 regarding marijuana. This was introduced at the last meeting as an introduction. As Mayor Karsbeck indicated, it is a public hearing this evening. There are no substantial changes to the ordinance from when it was introduced 2 weeks ago. There are, I believe, 2 corrections that were made, one to the attachment and one to the ordinance. There was a duplicate section number in the ordinance and an incorrect citation in the attachment. Otherwise, no changes, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Any questions for Clerk Samora? Look, we have any questions? Can I open it up to the public now?
Can't live in my dispensary anymore, guys. That's one of the amendments, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one's doing it. Okay, we have no one signed up. I'm gonna open it up for public comment now. We have no one signed up. Is there anyone in the audience? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to this? No? I thought you got, all right, we got a group here. All right, I'll close the hearing portion of this, bring it back to the board for deliberation. Seems like we're all supportive. Trustee Murphy, trustee Albrecht? Okay, we're good.
Keeps us in line with the state, yeah.
Heck yeah, I agree. Anyone wanna move on ordinance 1333?
Sure, I'll move to approve ordinance 13333, an ordinance of the town of Berthoud, Colorado, amending chapters 13 and 30 of the Berthoud Municipal Code regarding marijuana businesses.
Thank you. Trustee Kurtz has moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Ayers has seconded. Is there any final discussion? Mr. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote? Deputy Clerk, may we have a roll call vote?
Trustee
The applicant.
Hardy,
Yes.
trustee Ayers,
Yes.
trustee Murphy,
Yes.
trustee Albrecht,
Yes.
trustee Kurtz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grace,
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for all your work on this. And Mr. Larson in there on the back too, also on the liquor licensing board there. So. Well, it's liquor and marijuana, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Okay, well, that concludes our regular meeting. We'll move on to reports now. And we'll start off with trustees. Let's go right to left. Trustee Murphy?
We had a tree committee last night, just kinda discussing what we did, in the Arboretum talks. The only thing I had to add, I guess, was, everyone's pretty excited about the tree nursery idea there. It was also brought up, I don't know if you guys have seen any of the, tree spade operations, particularly the ones out at the bike park. Well, we had, I don't know, half a dozen huge trees placed out there, and they used this huge tree spade on the back of the truck. There was some discussion that bobcat-sized one might be a worthy purchase, probably after the tree nursery gets in place to do a little bit more substantial tree placements around town. Let's see, what else did we talk about? Right now, talking about some pruning education. We also brought up Arbor Day, which is, I believe, gonna be held on April 27th this year. We're looking at planting a tree out at Robertson Park, I believe. But that hasn't been finalized yet. There's also the hope that we might get some of the Girl Scouts involved or the elementaries. Plant on that poster contest again. I think that kind of sums it up for the tree committee right now. I'd like to thank staff for getting in touch with TSD on the whole Arboretum issue. And beyond that, one more thing I kind of brought up, I've kind of reached out to TSD on the busing issue and stuff. That's certainly something that's been brought up to me and is a topic of constant discussion. So
I don't have kids, I'm out of it, so is that because they loosened, or they got rid of a lot of?
I've brought it up at least at two TSD town board lunch dinners that we've had at school before too.
Is this about losing some of the routes?
Yeah, and just a general shortage of drivers right now. And, you know, it obviously impacts a lot of parents when they've gotta, you know, drop that in the middle of the year and figure out how they're, you know, logistically getting their kids to and from school and stuff, so. I just brought it up to the board that it's very important that, you know, there's some consistency and they should really take a look at, you know, how they can improve the service around town. I did some kind of, you know, impromptu polling of kind of how parents are getting to school in town. And, you know, right now, the majority of them get there via driving and stuff. And I'd really like to see a lot of that change and shift towards more biking and walking and busing for that matter.
Yeah, I live over there, I'm affected by it big time.
So, and, you know, one of the things that was brought up to me that I think that we can look at in the future is just our sidewalk gaps. You know, that's something to consistently try and knock down. But other than that, something to be mindful of. Otherwise, I've got nothing else, I guess.
Thank you, that's great. Trustee Albrecht.
I have nothing to report.
All right, Trustee Kurtz?
Yeah, I have a challenge and a request. I guess I'll start with maybe the challenge. So this is just me philosophizing a little bit. So I mentioned earlier I was at the farm show, the Colorado Farm Show in Greeley, and there was a big focus on water and kind of the relationship between the growing municipalities and ag. And so one of the participants at a panel discussion asked, you know, what can ag do to get more involved with municipalities that are kind of expanding, you know, much like our community. And there were some ideas that were tossed around, and one of them was, hey, well, you know, as a member of that community, you should start showing up to trustees, you know, meetings or council meetings and just ask how you can be involved. But somebody actually flipped the question around and said, well, what can municipalities do, you know, to get ag more involved? And so I know that it's a kind of a cornerstone of where we want to head in terms of open space preservation. So I don't necessarily have a good answer, but like a few ideas would be, you know, even though they're not technically in the boundaries of the city, but would there be, or the town, would there be a spot on port for like an at-large member to comment on open space opportunities? But just, anyways, that's the challenge.
Yeah.
I'm not like looking for answers or anything tonight.
Chris is
but I
probably
just-
sick of banging your head on the ATM word, but I think ATMs are
Yeah.
a great way to do that, to share water with ag.
But yeah, so it's just, you know, think about it. If anybody has any good ideas, I don't know what the next step would be, but it was generated a lot of discussion.
The question was, how can municipalities help out farmers more with water or sharing it? Or?
Water or land preservation, and specifically ag land that is kind of in that, I guess I'd call it the buffer zone, right?
Okay.
So they're not like way out in eastern Colorado.
Right.
It's
kind of the more endangered area.
Yeah, kind of essentially, yeah. But maybe not exactly in a town boundary. So so anyways, just a thought out there I wanted to throw out as a little bit of a challenge for you if you're walking your dog or, you know, making an omelet, kind of think about it. The other request I have is or the other thing is I was visiting, I have a friend that works at a House Neighborly Service, and I believe Trustee Albright asked when they were here, I think it was at the last meeting, like what could the town do more, you know, to help H&S and groups like that, and I kind of re-asked the question, and they actually had a more specific answer, and that was, so for the Berthoud Life Center that they're hoping to construct, is there a way that we could, I guess, compose a general letter of support? They said that that would go a long way with fundraising, to know that the town is just supportive.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna ask for 400 grand for their, they want us
It
to
was
name
not,
the
no,
biggest
it was a
builder.
letter, it
That's
was
great.
no monetary ask, it was just, can we write almost like a general letter of support, not of the Life Center here in Berthoud and,
We should, is that cool with everyone?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Is that, who's gonna, am I drawing that one up or?
We can work together and put something together, we can write up a draft if that's of interest to you and bring it
Yeah,
back to you at
that's
a future
great.
meeting.
Never
Yeah.
thought of that, that's cool.
That'd be awesome, thank you.
That's it.
Trustee Ayers.
I don't have anything tonight.
All right, trustee Hardy.
Nothing too exciting, I just have a couple things, some Facebook chatter that I wanted to kind of bring up. And then just something, an observation I've had the last few nights driving in from my 25. And kind of, maybe it's a dark sky thing, or maybe it's just me being annoyed, but Love's has a propane tank out there with a very bright light that faces eastward. And it's like having like a spotlight shining at you while you're trying to go through the roundabout. It's not downward facing, it kind of shoots straight across, and it's pretty bright.
This is why
I
I believe
find
in the
it,
Second Amendment.
so I just kind of, if we could kind of check that out and explore it, maybe we can get them to face it down more,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
easy enough.
You can talk to him, Chris, or
Oh, yeah.
Administrator Kirk? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Halogen lights, my coldest fingers.
The other things that came up through some of the community chatter was maybe directed to you back over there. The roundabouts, of course, everyone talking about, this is something we even talked about when Chief Anderson was on board with. People passing in the roundabouts and almost having collisions in the roundabouts, and maybe having some better instruction on the one that's by the McDonald's roundabout as to which lane you should be in, cause like the far left one will
Yeah.
makes you wanna go turn left, and the other one, the right one actually is the one that goes straight south. Maybe have some better, clear instruction on that, and then maybe have a fun video on our Facebook page about
I think they did
how you
put
do
one.
a roundabout.
Yeah,
The
someone
sheriff's
did.
office did, and I
Okay,
think they took some heat from the community.
They did.
Because it wasn't, I don't think it was terribly well received, but I think it was still an important video to put out there.
Yeah.
And the signs are pretty explicit if you pay attention to them, but
Yeah.
People don't
It-
read
the
I don't know if
striping-
you wanna
the
read a
striping
sign
does
while you're
get
on a
faded.
roundabout anyway.
Yeah, and the signs are as you approach the roundabout, so before you're in it, you should have a pretty good idea of which
Yeah.
lane you're supposed to be in, but
so I don't know if there's a way we can maybe improve them slightly.
so actually, there will be some improvements to that roundabout in particular. One of the problems is that it's a 2-lane roundabout that necks down to a 1-lane road. Or it's really like a 4-lane roundabout that goes into a 2-lane road, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so it creates some weird issues because like as you're heading northbound, the far right lane is a forced right turn. You can't actually enter the roundabout. And so people get into that lane thinking that they're gonna be able to go through the roundabout, but then it kind of forces you into Prairie Star. So we get a lot of merge issues there. A lot of that, and then as you come out of the roundabout heading northbound, it's a single lane. Coming southbound, there's a slip lane, like a free right coming off of Grand Market heading to the light. But then people are also, they get into that not realizing they need to get over 2 lanes if they wanna turn left, so some of it will, the long and short of it is, it's a complicated roundabout. It is designed to appropriate engineering standards, and there will be improvements made as Prairie Star and the next phase of Bader Farm, which is the one on the north side of Grand Market. As those 2 projects get built, they're already aware of some of the improvements they'll have to make. That should make it a little easier to navigate.
Okay, but anyway, just some things that I saw that be addressed, and I did like in your report, you addressing the speeding issues that people keep talking about on 287. And of course, the big debate is like, well, the people that are complaining are the ones driving the speed limit in the left lane when they should be in the right lane and that sort of thing. And I came across this interesting video from the sheriff near Reno that loves to do left lane videos, and how he pulls everybody over that thinks
Left
they
lane.
have full right to be in the left lane. But I don't know, my philosophy is if you wanna help, being in the left lane doesn't fix the speeding problem, but if anything, it takes money out of our pockets for the sheriff's department. But anyway, but yeah, I just wanna thank you that you reported that you guys were out there doing some diligent work on trying to address the speeding issues on 287. And then let's see here, I thought I had something else here. But I think that's it.
All right,
Unless
Mayor
I
Pro Tem?
spontaneously think of something, but I don't.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, no, to kind of go off your roundabout, so southbound on Berthoud Parkway, it opens up and both lanes say, oh, you can go straight. I know, cause I drive it every weekend going straight, and then as soon as you come through, it quickly changes. Yeah, so, yeah, it's,
Yeah.
it takes a,
I still catch myself doing it too, cause
oh, I can just go straight in this, nope, that's a left only, okay, yeah.
so, but I don't know, I just think some more fun,
Mhm.
maybe some fun sarcasm on how to do the roundabout, cause I don't know, I actually kinda like them, but I have seen people like, I can
Start
see them
tornadoes.
ponying up on my right side, like, oh, they're gonna try and pass me on that roundabout, especially the first one that's up further on the S curve.
Mhm.
Cause that's a 1 lane to 2 lane, back to 1 lane, and
Yep.
I've had several people try and pass me that, I'm like, oh, no, you don't.
Yeah, people who try to pass you on the roundabout, there's a word for them. I won't say it, but there's a word for it. Anyway, youth advisory is gonna be meeting tomorrow morning. Continue working on some stuff to start their year up with calendar plans. They're also going to be, I believe, helping out with the rec center. Saturday is a youth at night rec center thing. So if you've got kids, teenaged up, drop them off at the rec center. It's a big thing.
I saw that sign today.
Yeah, so you just, ditch your kids for a little bit.
That's
and
great.
Make
It's
it a
like a
rec
kids'
center
night out,
problem.
right?
Yeah,
It's a
it's
big-
kids' nights out. Yeah,
I used to work for kids.
yeah. No, they'll be there. Only other thing I have to report, I guess, well, question one, the sign feedback email you sent out, any final answers on where people wanna go with it?
That's on my list to ask you about tonight. We only got 3 formal responses so far, so if you haven't responded, I'd certainly appreciate your feedback.
Okay.
If you don't care, that's fine feedback too. If you don't have a dog in the fight and you like both, that's okay. But yeah, if you haven't looked, check your email. There's a link, there's an image of both. There's a green version and a blue version.
Yep.
We'd just like to know if anybody has any strong aversion to one or the other.
Then just my usual follow-up questions on railroad crossings, trail connections, the usual stuff.
No valuable updates for you tonight.
No CDOT updates?
No.
Okay. Maybe one year we'll get a CDOT update.
Stop signs on Michigan, or?
No?
No, the CDOT is still planning to repair the crossing of mountain this spring. It's still on the list. They're still moving forward, kind of peripherally. They don't want or need our help. They've made that clear, but
Yeah.
they're kind of keeping us in the loop.
The left turn signal at 287.
No answer there.
Okay. I figured to ask.
No, I'm glad you
The trail connection between Hammond Farm going southbound to
Advantage.
Vantage.
Oh, yeah. That we actually are good to go on.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna be prepared to start construction this spring.
Nice. And take
So I think we've finally gotten through all the environmental reviews. We are gonna have to relocate some prairie dogs, I think.
No. Okay.
Yeah. But we should be good to go.
Just what those flagpoles are for.
So it should be done. Do you think it's gonna be like a quarter project, half year project?
It's probably a 6-month project in total. We do still have some coordination to do with the ditch company in order to widen the box culvert.
Okay.
The cross is handy. We haven't gotten a final approval from them yet, and there's no way we'll get it done prior to irrigation season, so we'll have to wait until the ditch turns off.
Okay.
So in the fall, that piece would get widened. But we actually have enough room on the shoulder, we can kind of push the bike trail onto the shoulder with maybe some K-rail or what do we call it here, Jersey barrier.
Yep.
Sorry, K-rail's a different state. Same thing.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah, so we'll have some ability to do some temporary solutions until we can get across the ditch.
Cool. Just Spartan crossing with the railroad. That's the last question.
That they have our 100% construction plans that were modified based on their last round of comments, so we're waiting on their kind of final response on those construction drawings, and then we'll, assuming we're good there, that's actually a pretty big step to get their approval of our construction drawings, and then the PUC application process should be streamlined because of that.
Sweet.
So we've kind of worked out all the issues with them ahead of time. We're working on their construction and operations and maintenance agreement with the railroad right now in parallel with, we'll be applying to the PUC as soon as we get that, what we think will be approval of our construction plans from the railroad.
Sweet. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Good. I had the veterans had a chili cook-off at City Star, and I showed up, and I just wanted to let everyone on the board know they were extremely thankful for the not only the 32,000, but Administrator Kirk working out the extra money. So they are having tons of ideas and very happy for what we did. So thank you to everyone. Administrator Kirk and I met with a different veteran that would like to do a memorial. He thinks it'll cost about $500,000. Already had a pretty good CAD mock-up, but was just looking for locations. So he'll be working with Administrator Kirk and kind of go from there on parkland and availability. So I thought it looked really good. Administrator Kirk and I also met with American Petroleum Institute again today. So this will be the second meeting with them. They didn't have any new points, and to be honest with you, their points weren't that drastic. So I think it's stuff that they can work out. I think 3 real meetings. You and I were in a Longmont one, and then Chris and I were also, we had a CDOT guy, attorney, come and speak to us, but it was the really cold weather, so we just did it via Zoom, so we couldn't do a walkthrough, but less than encouraging stuff. But yeah, a lot of improvements that would make, right now, if there's not improvements, it has to be at that 49 mile per hour speed, Trustee Murphy, you were saying, but as they make improvements to make it more straight and that kind of stuff, then the speed will go up. But yeah, really no concessions or anything from them, so nice guy, but didn't really get anywhere. I liked it. Let's see here. Oh, I made a scheduling error on the MPO meeting, and I booked it, yeah, it was during the same night as the planning council meeting. So thank you to Clerk Zamora and staff for same day being able to get the rec center room reserved. And though I thought it'd be like a tight fit, it was a little snug but perfect. No one got to, it was great for all the new elected officials and stuff to see our new. So I actually really preferred it, because they got to see all the new amenities. So thank you for helping out with that. Let's see here, staff. Oh, okay, so that's it. So my phone died. I want to read some history off to you guys. I thought it was really interesting. So my phone's died. I can't read the history I found on the handy, but I did finally find this letter. So our town water tank was actually donated to us by a guy, former trustee and mayor, John Bunyan. And at the end of his life, he did really well off the town in stocks and whatnot. And so he not only donated a water pipeline so we could get water to us, our first water treatment plant, but he also donated the water tank, or the water tower. And so I just wanted to briefly read off the letter he wrote to the town board, and it was in the Berthoud Bulletin at the time. It says in October 1959, John Bunyan offered to give the town of Berthoud 1,000 shares of Bethlehem Steel Corporation common stock to be used for the erection of the elevated water tank. In a letter, Bunyan stated, "I understand that the additions to be made to the water system included a water tower which would increase the pressure in the water mains. Also that the town has no funds with which to erect this tower. I know that if the town had to issue bonds to cover this cost, the rate of interest would be high. During the 67 years I have lived in Berthoud, I have prospered and made many friends. I am glad now to make a substantial gift to the town to enable it to accomplish these things without having to issue bonds." Served by the water system for all my friends and fellow townsmen will benefit by not having to pay higher taxes or water rents, or both, to effect these improvements. Oh, it's a neat letter.
Donated
We're
his stock.
townspeople. Yeah, who donates to a town, right?
That's
Someone give us a
awesome.
rec center, but anyway, he grew up, or his house was a block away from Tim and I, so yeah, good name. No, that's fine, never mind. The other one I wanted to show you, and I'll share it on the email, but for anyone in the audience too, I was trying to find the history. We have a unique history of our farmers actually marching to the head gate of the Handy Ditch. The head gate of the Handy Ditch, our ditch, is the dam store in Loveland. So our dam is actually ahead of Loveland's. So we have the senior right on the Big Thompson River. It's kind of funny. Well, the water commissioner for the Big Thompson during a really dry year decided to chain up our head gate, and apparently he did some others too. Well, Handy farmers were not having that, so they all grabbed guns. There's apparently 30 of them, and they marched all the way up to the head gate, following the Handy. And there's a rock up there that apparently looks like a lot like a fort, and they spent several nights there. Apparently, I don't know if they're waiting for the water commissioner or what, but when he came, they held him at gunpoint, and they had the whole dialogue. It was pretty insane, but essentially a guy put a gun to him and said, either you're going, or one of us is going into the river and it's not me. And the water commissioner ended up backing down and leaving. And then the sheriff was supposed to come up and handle it, or a deputy, but the deputy said, I know those guys, I'm not going up there. And so the sheriff had to go up there himself, and it just ended saying there was no resolution. So I don't know if that meant it was chained up or someone was still having a gun pointed to their head, but that's it, you know, we have, I don't know, we all have kind of a similar history in northern Colorado with irrigation and agriculture and whatnot and railroad, but yeah, 30 guys, people with guns marching up that far is that's kind of impressive. So also let you know how much that meant to them. Those
Water
life or
rights
death.
are no joke.
Yeah.
I don't know where I heard the quote, but somebody said whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting, so it's a pretty clear example of that.
Absolutely. One of them was Frances Marianne Wagner of Wagner Farm Park. One of them was Virginia Huffy's great predecessor.
No kidding.
That's it for my birthday history. Thank you. I'll turn off the legal or council. Any?
I have nothing else.
Okay. Administrator Kirk.
Just a couple quick things. If you go up and down Fourth Street, you'll notice that we have excavators out. We're starting that kind of first phase of the First Street sewer line rehabilitation, correcting some issues that we have along there. There's some constrictions in the line. There's failed portions of the line, so Fourth Street and Water Avenue will be shut down for an extended period of time as that work goes on at that location. Up to 4 weeks, maybe less. The work within kind of the asphalt maybe can move off to the side. But we've had a lot of public notice about that, and hopefully that project goes smoothly and quickly. Maybe we'll get some good weather and not have to worry about trying to fix some of that stuff in bad weather. And then once they do, there'll be some work going along in town through some of the alleys as sewer lines are rehabbed through there. So just be on the lookout for that. We already talked about the welcome sign. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Clerk Samora and his team. As you know, we do passports at Town Hall. And they had a passport inspection recently and got some really great feedback and commentary about our process and how we do things. There's a very, very low rejection rate of the passport applications that are filled out here. We don't make those determinations, right? But we collect and help to make sure that everybody has the right information, that their photos are correct. There's a lot of real specifics that go into how that process works, but he and his team are just fabulous at organizing those. We're super efficient because we take appointments, and so people don't have to go and sit at a passport office for hours and hope they get.
So we're above and beyond other Walgreens and other passport
I think we
providers,
go
is
well above and beyond
That's
kind of
awesome.
what a lot of passport facilities do. It's super efficient, and he and his team do just an awesome job. So just wanted to mention that. And that's it for me tonight.
I had a quick question about the data software tracking or data tracking.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I meant to get to all of you last week because I know that everybody's had issues logging in. So I've got to get that figured out. I don't know why the link that I've shared doesn't work or why it's asking you for passwords. Did you actually get in?
The spreadsheet?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You have to sign up for a smart sheet.
Yeah, so you have to have an account, I think is the long and short of it. It shouldn't cost anything. You'll have viewing rights once you establish that account. We haven't expanded. We only have a limited number of user licenses that our department heads use. And so we haven't expanded because the cost to go up in those user licenses is actually a very significant jump in cost. So we're kind of using it at its minimum. So if you have created an account and you can view those, then we can start to share some of the other sheets with you guys. Just wanted to sort that out, but I'm glad to hear that you were able to get in.
Great. So yeah, okay.
So you
No,
should,
got it.
if you create that smart
Okay.
sheet account using the link that you're provided, you can use your town email, as the login, and then just create a password. You should be able to view the current town board agenda tracking sheet. So you'll kind of see what's coming up in the future.
Gonna need to see it change over the week and.
And actually, you can actually go back and see all the stuff we've done over the last, 8 months or whatever too.
Yeah, I was
So
like, oh,
well
where did all
done.
that
That's
go? And I
fantastic.
scrolled down, I saw it all at the bottom as being complete. It's like, oh, that was fast.
Awesome. Okay, I'll get on it. Thank you for.
Mhm.
And I cut someone off.
No,
Trustee-
I just wanna second those comments. I had both my daughters get their passports renewed and it was a flawless process, so you guys are doing an excellent job.
I wanted to reply to your busing thing. Is there a possibility with our micromobility thing to maybe help out some of this?
The school district?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
actually
get-
meant to mention that, so I appreciate you bringing that up. I did talk to Dr. Schaefer and Todd Piconi, their COO, in our last meeting, and just They're aware of our microtransit grant, that we're still waiting on the federal government to approve their budget to see if that actually comes through. But there may be some opportunities to partner together, and one of the providers that we've interviewed for that micromobility solution also handles school busing and intelligent routing and
Makes sense.
kind of on-demand routing, so there may be an opportunity to kind of use our backbone to enhance what they do too. So we'll be working together on that as we move forward. So good question, thank you for bringing it back.
Yeah, that-
bringing it
yeah,
back up,
awesome. They're our largest transit provider, so I figured we could work with them. Cool. Anything else? All right, thank you everyone for a great meeting. Thanks for sticking around, folks. It's awesome to have an audience. It's not yelling at us, so everyone have a great night. Meeting adjourned.
Before you all leave, could I get a picture?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Thanks for
Standing
taking
up
so long.
somewhere or?
Do you want us up here, Lauren, or do you want us